This is Interpreting Wine host and founder Lawrence Francis welcoming you to a special series celebrating the 30th anniversary of independently owned wine and spirit importer Louis Latour Agencies. Across these 5 episodes recorded in April 2020, you will spend time with 4 of their producers as well as hearing from agency senior management, discovering the diversity of producers in their portfolio, which includes interesting characters and wines from the new and old world, long-established producers as well as newer ones, and we'll go in-depth with cognac producer Frappin, a first for the podcast. To go along with this series, Louis Latour Agencies are very generously running a prize draw featuring a case of 6 wines from the series. To enter, you need to be on their mailing list before 9 a.m. on Monday the 15th of June 2020. The winner will be drawn and announced on the Louis Latour website on the afternoon of Monday 15th of June 2020. So do be sure to use the link below to sign up and for full prize draw terms and conditions. Today's episode of the Louis Latour Agencies 30th Anniversary Series features Patrice Pévetot, cellar master at Cognac Frappin. Covering a cognac producer in depth for the very first time on the podcast, Patrice first gives us an orientation to the 750-year history of Frappin and takes us through the process of cognac production in the region, touching on adaptation in the face of change and the Cognac Frappin philosophy and range. We, of course, then tried 2 cognacs from their range, the VSOP Grand Champagne and the Chateau Fontpinot XO Grand Champagne, Patrice expertly describing the emotion behind the evolution and sensory experience of each, before closing out the interview by discussing the communication of cognac to a new audience and looking ahead for the category as a whole. Enjoy!
My name is Patrice Pévetot. I'm the cellar master and general manager of Cognac Frappin. My parents was vine grower in Cognac area, not in Grand Champagne, but another cru. So I made my studies in agronomy and œnology in Champagne area, in Bordeaux area, many places. And I start to work in Bergerac area just after my studies. So in the heart of the Montbazillac, I produced some dry white wine, red wine, sweet wine. And I arrived to Frappin in 1991. So long time ago, 29 years ago now. A long story. Like Frappin, because Frappin, it's still a family business today, and this family have a very long story because they arrived in Charente area in 1270. So this year, it's the birthday of 750 years. Arriving. Very long story, but also very rich family story. I want to give you many examples. In the 17th century in France, there was a very famous writer called François Rabelais. He was very well known. He wrote many books, and his mother was Anne-Catherine Frappin. Is the reason why on our label we have a feather like this, because it's the emblem of the writer from François Rabelais. And before the feather, it was a coat of arms. And it's also a part of the story because this coat of arms, it was Louis XIV in France, the Sun King, who gave this coat of arms to the family because one of the ancestor, Frappin, was the apothecary of the king. So it's also a part of the story. So many examples like this. And just to finish a few examples, in the middle of the vineyard, we have a very beautiful big chateau called Château Fontpinault. It's a very old place, and it was Henri Frappin who transformed a big house to the chateau in 1872. So it's a very long story, a family story. What is Frappin today? Frappin today, we have many specificity in Cognac place, because all our range come from our vineyard. So we have one of the bigger vineyard in Cognac area, 250 hectares of vine. And second characteristic, all the vineyard is in the middle of the first cru called Grande Champagne. It's everybody here considers the best place to produce cognac. It's the best Grand Cru, and the main characteristic of the Grande Champagne is the subsoil, and subsoil is a crumbly chalk. And crumbly chalk is a very important thing in the terroir of Grande Champagne, of Charente area, because of the water supply. It's like a sponge, in the other cru, there is some chalk also, but not crumbly as Grande Champagne. So it's very, very important things. And all our range today come from our vineyard. So we control everything. What does it mean, controlling everything? It means, is it possible to develop a special techniques, to take risk, to try to produce something a little bit different? Is it possible, you like or not, but controlling everything, it's possibility to produce something different. So, of course, like in Grand Cru in Bordeaux, the beginning of the story is a vineyard. So we have to pay attention to the vine growing. So we have many kinds of techniques in two big groups. The traditional way. We continue to develop techniques with old-fashioned because it's good, but also new techniques from the new knowledge. For example, we make analysis of the leaves and the soil to understand what is the feeding, and especially about the component is iron. Iron is the problem. If there is not enough iron in the plants, it's a sort of, not a disease, but it's a lack of iron. So we have to pay attention to the iron. So then we analyze to know the moment when the plant need iron. Okay, it's the example of the new technique. It's very important, the vine growing, because it's the base of the production, and to make a good wine and a good eau de vie, we need, like everybody, I think, a good grape, of course. The main variety for Frappin is Uni Blanc. Like a lot of people in Cognac area, because it represents more than 95% probably. I planted 12 years ago a new variety, the name called Folignan. Folignan, it's a new variety between Uni Blanc and Folle Blanche, to have the advantage of the Folle Blanche without the problem, and the problem was and is now botrytis. So it's a new one. We need more aging probably to know what is the quality of this Folignan, because we need long aging for Frappin. And to finish about vine growing, we started in 91 sustainable vine growing. So the way, the idea of the sustainable vine growing, it's not to avoid everything, but to put less chemical things, etc. We started a long time ago. We have a certification now about this technique to respect the soil and etc. In the middle of September, about the middle of September, we have to pick grape to make the wine. Usually, I think that the vinification in Cognac area, it's one of the most difficult vinification in the world. Why? Because we are not allowed to put anything. No acid, no sugar, but no sulfur. And you know sulfur is against oxidation, bacteria everywhere. It's not possible in Cognac area, not only Frappin, but everybody. Because sulfur is a volatile element, and then during the distillation we will concentrate sulfur, and the result will be harmful. So it's impossible. We have a special techniques to make wine without sulfur, and it's the reason why the characteristic of the wine in Cognac area, it's a little bit acid, because to conserve the wine before the distillation, we need the cold weather during winter, but also the acidity, a sort of pH. For Frappin, it's the same idea, but I consider I need acidity, but also a part of maturation. Because if I want to find some fruit in the eau de vie, I need a fruit before picking grape. So it's acid, but not too acid. It's a part of maturation. And it's not a problem to keep the wine before the distillation, because I control everything. I come back to this idea. Another thing, we have to pick grape and press the grape and pump the grape juice in the fermenting vat very quickly, because we have no sulfur to prevent with the oxidation. So we are going very quickly. So making wine in Frappin, it's not easy, and we have to develop different kinds of techniques compared with the other area. Yeah. The control of the temperature is a little bit different also. Another example, for example, during the distillation for Frappin, we distill with a lees. Frappin, I'm keen on two kinds of lees. The lees from the yeast, so alcoholic fermentation, but also the lees from the pulp. So for Frappin, before the alcoholic fermentation, there is no settling. You know, everywhere in a Muscadet or Entre de Mer, where they wait many hours to have a sedimentation, they pump the clear juice, etc. For Frappin, I'm keen on also the pulp lees. It's the reason why we have a pneumatic press to have not too much pressure, to have a good fine pulp lees without piece of pips, etc., piece of leaves, etc. Just an example to show you it's a very special vinification and also very difficult vinification. So the wine stay on the lees after the alcoholic fermentation, and generally in the beginning of November we have to start the distillation. And then we crush the lees and the wine just before pumping in the pot still. So you know the distillation in Cognac area is with a special pot still. Two distillation. So at the beginning we distill the wine, and the result of the first distillation is a brouillis. It's about 30% alcohol. And when we have enough brouillis, we distill the brouillis, and we just keep the heart, the middle of the second distillation to produce the cognac. And we put away the beginning, called the head, and the hand, called the second. So the distillation in Cognac area, it's a separate distillation. So we distill with a lees. I consider when you are in Grande Champagne, you have to distill with a lees, like Frappin, and after have a very long aging. We take risk because the lees may be burned in a pot still, so we have a special system to wash the lees with hot water. The guy who distill have to go in the pot still without fire, of course, to wash the fat acid around the pot still. It's not easy to have a good distillation with the lees. Second element, very important for Frappin, all the decision is not through the computer. It's a real artisanal distillation, and each decision is through the tasting with the guy who distill. It's very important because the wine for Frappin, sometimes I have to distill the wine with alcohol content between 10%, between 11. So sometimes it's not a normal wine from cognac area, you know. So we have to adapt the distillation to this wine every time. So the best way is the tasting, to have a real artisanal way to taste. Of course, the distillation is a very, very important period. Everything is important for Frappin and the beginning of the year at the end. But the distillation, it's a very, very important things, of course, because it's a concentration. We need a good wine, but we need a good concentration through the good distillation. So the result is Cœur de Bonne Chauffe. The alcohol content is about between 71-72% alcohol. It's translucid. So then we have to age it to transform in cognac. For Frappin, so the aging is in the cask. So for Frappin, we have 3 levels of aging in cask. The first one is new cask. I consider the cask are new during 5 years. And during this period, there is a lot of element from the wood go to the eau de vie. Polyphenol, tannin, vanilla, color also. So of course, how do we make cask is important. The origin of the wood is also important. And for Frappin, it's the kind is a limousine wood with a large pores because I age a long time, so I need a lot of tannin at the beginning. And the aging in a new cask depends what I want to produce at the end. It's between 6 months to 1 year. Second level of aging, it's middle cask. We call it red cask. It's between 5 years to 15 years. And then there is a small quantity of element from the wood, but not a lot compared with the new one. And third level, it's a very long aging, sometimes very, very long. It's old cask, and sometimes very, very old cask. During this period, there is no element from the wood, nothing from the wood. All the aging is only through gas exchange. So gas exchange is evaporation, is angel share. What is angel share? It's a sort of concentration. The first concentration is a distillation, and the angel share, it's another concentration. And oxidation through the wood and the whole of the cask. So 3 levels. After that, for Frappin, we have another big characteristic. I have many kinds of cellars, and each cellar have a characteristic to age in 2 big groups. The first one is humid cellar. It's a group of the humid cellar. So in humid cellar, we have less evaporation than the other, and we have more alcohol we evaporate compared with the water. So the result of this kind of aging is the cognac more round, And the second group of aging for Frappin is dry cellar. It's a big characteristic for Frappin. Dry cellar are upstairs, under the roof, and especially during summer, a part of spring, a part of autumn, but more summer. the evaporation is different because we have more evaporation. So we lose more concentration, and we lose differently because we lose more water than alcohol in proportion. So you understand easily that if I put the same cognac downstairs and upstairs, it will be different. It's very important to understand that because it's a way for me to produce something different in my range. I mean, all the grape come from my vineyard. So I have two kinds of terroir of Grand Champagne, but it's Grand Champagne, in the heart of Grand Champagne. So the best way for me to produce something different in my range, it's mostly the aging, more or less new cask, humid cellar or dry cellar. It's my tool, And it's also for this reason that our range is it's not a small range, it's a more range, but it's a range everywhere in the world. Château Fontpinault is the same in France, Taiwan, US, and China. Because with my method of production, it's not possible to make segmentation with different because of the origin of the grape and the way to make different during the aging. Just a few words about the market. Frappin, we are, in the cognac world, we are small compared with all the market. But we are only present in niche market. So only in a good restaurant, a special shop, etc., etc. And in this world, in this market, niche market, we are big. Not too big, but bigger than in a normal market. So in this quality niche market, Frappin, we are present in the first 70 market in the world, around the world. So many markets. Big market in France, the cognac is only 2% in France. We are near 8-9. So and everywhere in the world, in Russia, China, and Europe, US.
There's loads and loads there that I could ask you about. But I think what would really bring this to life in a different way for me and I think for the listener, and because we're talking, because you've had so much experience, as you say, you've got the 29 years experience and you've, I'm sure, seen a lot of changes, and that's really the word that I've written down there is change. I just wonder if you'd reflect on that word change, what that means for you. And I'm the two that have sort of come to mind for me. One has been climate change, and the other potentially are changes by the governing body, as to what goes into cognac or what is a cognac, the rule book, if you like. So I wonder if you wouldn't mind reflecting on those two as forces of change and indeed bringing in any other forces of change that you've seen and that you've had to adapt to over that time period.
So my parents was vine grower. When I was young, generally, we started picking grape in the middle of October, and sometimes we finished in the beginning of November. Now, we start to picking grape, average, in the middle of September. So, many weeks before. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it depends, but so probably something changed. So today, it's not a big problem because to have enough acidity, we pick grape before. But it will maybe a problem in the future. So cognac area started many years ago to experiment new variety, new Uni Blanc It's not a new variety, it's Uni Blanc, but different kinds of Uni Blanc, and perhaps new variety to avoid a problem in the future. But it's not a problem, but it's an element. We have to pay attention to that to prepare the future, really. Cognac area, it's an appellation, of course, so we have many rules. But Frappin, but also Cognac, it's a sort of a tradition way. And we produce something with a very long aging. Could you imagine the extra quality for Frappin was produced 2 generations before? So it's a part of innovation. So Frappin 12 years ago planted a new variety called Folignan. So it's a sort of innovation. We discover different kinds to age with different cellars, etc. But it's never a revolution. It's a sort of tradition way, making wine from the terroir, aging. We have innovation in the packaging, of course, but Cognac, it's a part of innovation, but never a revolution. Probably what is the difference between 30 years ago? It's probably, for me, that the knowledge is more and more. So the technique doesn't change really, but we understand more why something happened. So then we can adapt and controlling more. So I'm sure that the Cognac today and tomorrow will be a little bit better because we understand more through the knowledge. I spoke before about the alcoholic fermentation and how is it possible to keep the wine now without sulfur. It's not a very recent research, but it was Lavoisier and Pasteur, the big research with yeast and bacteria. It's not very recent, but and probably the best way to work for Frappin is the tasting every time between picking grape to the bottling. But we also analyze. We analyze now the leaves of the plant, the soil to understand the feeding before you just see if something is efficient or not. Now we understand because we know how the different mineral elements go in the plant, etc. So it's through the new tool of the analyze and the research.
I really like that because what I take from that is that the actual what's in the bottle and the processes, they haven't necessarily massively changed over time. There's maybe some adaptation in terms of maintaining the acidity, but the quality is still the same. The nature of the product is still the same. But as you say, you're now just understanding why something that was written down hundreds of years ago, you're then actually saying, oh, okay, it was because of X, Y, Z. It's that knowing, and I think it's very interesting that even the knowing, and it sounds as though that hasn't ultimately led to massive changes in terms of what's in the bottle. I find that very interesting. It's saying, okay, we trust and we enjoy what the result has been over this time, and maybe now we just have a greater awareness of what is actually happening. So yeah, really, really, really cool. So I've as you can see here, I mean, I've made tons of notes. So there are things that I will want to come back and ask, but I think this feels like a good point to actually get specific, because I'm just aware, we've been and I'm fascinated. We've been talking a lot about the production details and the region and the soil. And I think ultimately where people all around the world can listen to this and they can really experience this is going to be, as you say, they can find the cognacs in their market and they can taste it. So in preparation for today, I did ask you to select 2 cognacs from the range. And we're doing this virtually. So I'm here in London, you're there in Cognac, and you're going to guide me through essentially a tasting of these 2 cognacs. So maybe if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit why you selected these 2 cognacs before then taking us through them one by one.
So Frappin, we have a range, not a too big range, but so the first one in the range we call it 1270. You know, it's not a VS because we need to age more than the normal for Frappin. So it's not a VS, it's a 1270, the younger in the range. How to discover what is Frappin quality through the younger one, 1270. The second one is VSOP. We will speak about that after. And up to VSOP, it's only XO and more. So we have the first one called Cigar Blend. It's interesting because Cigar Blend, it's a blend, old blend, it's a XO. And the way to produce the Cigar Blend is aging in humid cellar and 1 year in new cask. So there is more tannin than the other. And we age it in humid cellar. So the result is something very fruity, but something also with a character to support a part of the cigar range, you know. It's quite the same age as Fontpinot, but Fontpinot, it's different aging. I will come back about that. We have also another XO called VIP XO, older than the other, and in the same way to produce it, it's the same way as Cigar Blend. Humid cellar, and we age it 1 year in new cask. It's a very beautiful carafe for the present in the shop, and very good quality. And the best quality in the normal range called Extra. So the younger in is around 2 generations. You know, it's could you imagine? We produce something. I distill today some eau de vie will be for the part in Extra in 2 generations. You know what does it mean? It's not. It's a very philosophy, very special philosophy. Through the blending, we reproduce the same quality every time. So Chateau Fontpinot today, it will be the same tomorrow. And to have a success for the blending, we need a lot of stock. Because the blending for me it's like painting. More you have some blue color, more you have some yellow color, more you can reproduce the same green. So the stock of cognac area is about 7 years. Frappin, we have more than 16 years of stock because we are specialists in old cognac, so we need a lot of stock of old one. But we produce also we also need a lot of young one to have a lot of old one, of course. The second part of the range is vintages. You know, is it possible to produce vintages in cognac area? So we are not a lot, but we are not alone too. In cognac area, we have to prove the traceability and the origin of the vintage. So I decide to produce vintage after the distillation and before the end of March. So then we ask to the authorities of the BNIC to make the control. So they come and they put seals on a cask. And every time we want to take a sample to pump in the other cellar, or I don't know, we have to call them to prove the origin of the vintage. I don't produce vintages every year. I have not in 80, 81, 84, 87, because I have not at the beginning or during the aging. If the quality is quite the same as Fontpinot, for example, it's not very interesting for the market. So I broke it to put in the blend. So when the vintage arrives in the market, it's because it's good, of course, but also different than the rest of the range. But it's very interesting because it's a real job for Frappin. Artisanal way, from the terroir, different aging, etc. So it's different, it brings something different than the rest of the range. Okay? Oh là, c'est bon ça. Okay. So I make a selection of two qualities. The first one is a VSOP. Why VSOP? Because in our market, the VSOP quality is a bigger volume around the world, you know. And I think it's not the higher quality in the range, but I think it's also a sort of the heart of what is a company. You know, when you are like Frappin in the heart of Grand Champagne, when you distill with a lees, I consider you need more aging than the minimum. You know, in cognac area, the VSOP is 4 years old. This one is more. So I consider it's not a normal VSOP, you know, it's because more aging. Because one of my aim every time is a complexity. What is a complexity? The complexity is when you have a lot of flavor. Everybody in a group of people have a different opinion of the aroma because it's very rich and it depends the story of each people. It's the complexity. To have the complexity, we need to have not too much wood. If you have too much wood, it may be good sometimes, but not complex because everybody can find the wood. You know, so I have to stop the aging before having too much wood to have something very complex. And the complexity is, it depends really on the aging. Is the reason why I consider I need more aging than the minimum to have no aggressivity and something with a lot of flavor. So if you taste this one, it's not a dark color. You know, the color for Frappin comes from the cask, so there is no reason to have something too darker. So with a sort of orange and yellow color. And the big characteristic is the finesse. Complexity and finesse. A lot of flavor. So you can find also, of course, vanilla and different elements from the cask. Not too much, but also some dry fruit, some dry flower also. Very complex and also evolution. You know, the first nose is completely different in 10 minutes. Of course, you have to wait, but I think a characteristic of a good cognac, it's also the evolution during the tasting, to give emotion, you know. And it's the same if you taste in your mouth. It's no aggressivity, a lot of flavor too. There is some apricot. You know, after that, it's very difficult to describe because everybody, if it's rich, everybody have idea with his own opinion. But it's a very long aftertaste, very fruity, very rich, lot of evolution. I love this kind of quality. It's a pleasure. So, you know, this kind of quality, of course, is it possible to drink it neat, like this, because it's a very good cognac, no aggressivity. But around the world, is it possible also to taste it in different way? Of course, in the aperitif, in a cocktail world. You know, today we speak about mixologist. The mixology is the same idea as the gastronomy. The people who produce the cocktail now want to have something very good to produce something exceptional. So this VSOP, it's a very good base for a good cocktail. And many people around the world, and in London too, use this VSOP to produce a very high level cocktail. But it's also possible, and we try during the different visits in the Château Fontpinault, is it possible also to taste this cognac during the dinner or the lunch in a food pairing? And I think, in my idea, the best way is I have many souvenirs like this with a cold VSOP. So it's a sort of experience. It's not the best way to discover what is this VSOP, but you put this VSOP in a freezer, and it was very good with a carpaccio of scallops. You know, so the idea is the same as a wine. It's to have pleasure, to have a balance between different dishes and this cognac, this VSOP.
Amazing. I think when I'm having these conversations, I like to pick out things that you've said there. I totally get what you're saying, because there is just another level of complexity here, and I think, again, this is all of the things that you've spoken about then, all kind of combining and coming together into the glass. So there is, very much a sort of a richness and an opulence. But I guess what is also surprising me, I mean, as you say, we are trying this neat there's no mixologists here with us, unfortunately. But looking at the bottle, it's a 40% spirit, and I think this is, again, this is a point that I've made several times, even with relation to wine, but I think it's worth making here in relation to the cognac, is that maybe in the past people have looked at the alcohol and, okay, that tells you something about the spirit, and that tells you something about the liquid that you're having. But I think it's only one part of the information, so because all of those other elements and all of that other attention to detail that you've spoken about there doesn't, as you say, I like the word aggressive, that there isn't this sort of feeling of this is harsh or this is burning my throat, and often I think we attach those feelings directly to the alcohol percentage, and we don't take into account all of the other production factors and all of the other, essentially the artisanal nature of something like this versus any other spirit that might be out there that is aggressive, that is, difficult to taste, and you want to mix it and you don't want to really spend time with it. But this is absolutely lovely. And as you say, I think this is a good choice, because it's going to be, I hope, something that will suit all of those different situations and occasions that you've just referred to. I just want to add on a touch as well, and just a brief addendum really to my note is that absolutely I poured this cognac maybe half an hour ago, 40 minutes ago, and it's just getting better and better. And I will admit, in the past I've tried this exact cognac and I haven't waited, and I've missed out. That's a schoolboy error. I needed to wait. I needed to have the patience, and I would say it's totally rewards you if you just give it that time.
So for me, today the second quality is Château Fontpinault. It's the name of this cognac, Château Fontpinault XO. So why Château Fontpinault? in Cognac area, to put Chateau on the label, it's not the same as the other vineyard, like Bordeaux, for example, because we need to picking grape, make the wine, distillation, bottling at the chateau, but we need also a chateau. So we have a beautiful chateau in the middle of the vineyard. Is the reason why there is not a lot of chateau in Cognac area, and there is only one in Grand Champagne is a Chateau Fontpinot. Why Chateau Fontpinot? It's because it's a sort of bestseller for Frappin. It's one of the best value for money also. Voilà. So it's a XO, of course. The way to produce is aging only 6 months in cask, so not a lot of tannin at the beginning. And we age this quality Chateau Fontpinot in dry cellar. So you remember, upstairs, under the roof. Yeah. And during summer, especially summer, we lose a lot through the angel share, so big concentration, and we lose differently than the other area because we lose more water than the alcohol in proportion. It's a phenomenon of osmosis. So the result of this kind of aging is something, a cognac very fine and elegant. More you age in Grand Champagne, more you develop the complexity. So it's more complex than the VSOP, for example. It's different flavor. But usually I said it's fine, elegant, and very straight. It's completely the reverse as a cognac too woody and too fat. It's like a diamond. Very precise, fruity, and you can find many things: orange, fig, dry fruit, a lot of things. Very fine. It's incredible, very incredible. And it's the same if you put it in your mouth. You can find also the same idea as a nose. It's very straight like this, but very long aftertaste. Very long. Very fruity, no aggressivity, even if this one, Fontpinot, it's not 40, but it's 41. Why? Because the alcohol content, it's also to support the aroma. And to make Fontpinot, I need 1% more. It's impossible to find it by the tasting, but it's a little bit more than the other. And what is interesting in Fontpinot, I said before, one of the quality of the good cognac for me is the evolution. For Fontpinot, because more aging, it's incredible. You can find orange, apricot, many things, and if you make your glass empty and you wait many minutes, the flavor in the empty glass is more tobacco, cigar box, etc. Why? Because in the empty glass, there is more oxidation than in a full glass. So it's the reason why the evolution is quicker. It will be the same in a full glass, but you have to wait more, And for me, it's very interesting because during a tasting, you need some emotion, and for me, the emotion comes from, also, from the evolution during the tasting, different idea like this. And also, I have many examples of tasting this cognac neat, of course, but also food pairing. You develop more and more food pairing, and very often we make a good combination with Fontpinot and meat. And I think my best souvenir was a pigeon with a foie gras inside. And really, the balance with Fontpinot was good. After that, I want to come back to the aging, because very often the first question is, how old is a cognac? And really, I'm not sure that it's very important, because what is important for you and our customer is the result in the glass. It's not how many years. And I think that the good question is not how many years. The good question is how do you age during this period? You know, for Frappin, we pump in the other cellar, we make the blend before the end of, we make aeration, and what is important is the way to age more than the period. And another time, what is important for the customer is the result in the glass, and finally, the pleasure to taste and to drink.
This is amazing. I think, again, you've really nailed the description there. I mean, right the way through from the color, right the way through to the nose and to the palate. That there's certainly, I would say more elegance here. I would say that there's just more subtlety. I think that's a really good way to put it, and that evidently this will change and evolve over time. So you're really getting sort of 10 cognacs for the price of one as your evening develops and as it goes on. And I think you've really, again, touched on the alcohol question there again, even though it is a mere percent, but in its own way, because of the production, I think it's very much as a neat cognac. For a lot of people, this will be more approachable. What's sort of ringing in my ears, though, I guess from the first cognac was you mentioning around people mixing drinks with this. Are we then now, because we are in a different level, a different level of aging and a different production method, are we therefore then into, do you think, a category that lends itself less to mixology and lends itself more to being enjoyed alone or as part of a food pairing?
In our range, we have no cognac special for the mixology. And I want to say all the range is good for the mixology, but mostly for the price reason. The best quality for the mixology for Frappin are 1270 and VSOP. But mostly because of the price. If you produce a cocktail with Chateau Fontpinot, I'm sure it will be good. I try, really. I try. But of course, probably the price is not okay. It depends about the customer.
It's very interesting because I have come across through doing the podcast, I've come across many different categories. So not only wine, but also rum and also whiskey and also port and also sherry and all of these wonderful different categories. And I have actually touched on cognac in a previous episode before when there was a cognac show in London where this idea of really, I guess, connecting the consumer with cognac and having a space to really bring new people in is what I see as the big advantage of those shows, is that life happens, and as you get a certain customer, then they get older, and then you've already spoken about different generations enjoying the cognac that you're making now. And I'm just curious really to start to look ahead really and just think about, I guess, now what is the sort of the health, I guess, in a sense of, are younger people getting brought into cognac? Are there kind of enough young people, I guess, coming in and drinking? And potentially, what are the ways that you foresee, I guess, in the sort of near future, the sort of 5-10 year range, what are the sorts of things that you think are going to be important to bring a new generation and bring new people, and in a sense retain the relevance of cognac for a new consumer.
In our market, around the world, our customer, it's not too young, of course, in the average. I'm not sure the very young one will be our customer. But more and more, the younger generation are keen on cognac, mostly through the cocktail world, of course, the mixology. But I want to say not only. It depends on the different country, but sometimes in in Russia, or sometimes the people are keen on cognac, neat, so they are not too young, but around 30, 35, and they are really keen on the quality of the cognac and the characteristic of the cognac, the tasting. I think it's a good news. Cognac, the production around the world, it's not too big, and it's a real produce from the terroir, with tradition way. We speak a lot about craft. It's really cognac, So I'm very optimistic for the future about the category.
I think it's great that we've really come full circle for me. You started off talking about 1270. You started off talking about 750 years of history, and essentially is the same challenge. Is if you're relevant in 1270, then it's not guaranteed that you're going to be relevant in 1370 and in 1470 and it feels as though, well, it doesn't even feel as though Cognac Frappin has found a way to retain its relevance over 750 years. Otherwise, it would have disappeared. I'm sure there are many brands that are far younger who have come and gone, and that, I think, is something that is happening now. Is happening in terms of the examples that you've given there, the different markets around the world, the different looks, and I don't know, is there something you foresee in the future in terms of communication? That's always something that I like to draw upon, because I'm a communicator and I'm communicating through this channel. I'm just wondering, are there ways that you see as opportunities for communicating, and potentially even some which might have grown out of the huge constraint that we currently find ourselves in?
No, of course, Frappin, probably we have many advantages. The story of the family, the quality of the cognac, all the cognac from the vineyard, the technique, everything. The problem, probably, there is not enough people who know that. Is the reason why a small company like us, we need to communicate and to be present in the market, to taste the cognac with the other people, to explain what we are, and communicate through many channels, and every time we need every time. Recently, there is a French TV channel called TV5 Monde, TV5 World. They came here to make a film about 12 minutes, something like this, and so it's around the world in 200 different countries during many years, etc. But it's a real good film, I think, during 12 minutes, because it's a sort of good resume what we are. Through interview and also different beautiful image, and I think it's at this moment it's a good tool to discover what we are through the new channel. I think really it's a good element to discover after this talking to discover what we are really.
I want to kind of capture a little bit about this kind of the strange time as well, and again keep looking ahead though, and I'm just curious, kind of looking ahead. You know, we're here at the end of April 2020, and all of the fairs and all, a lot of the movements of people around the world, and in the cognac world as a subset of that has been hugely constrained. And I'm just curious, are there things at this point now that you're particularly either missing and waiting for them to return, or that you've kind of set as a date in the calendar that you're looking forward to?
Of course, this period is a little bit bizarre, of course, but I'm really still optimistic. It's a sort of parenthèse, but we are also lucky because our business is everywhere around the world, and the speed of the new development, it depends everywhere, but different everywhere. But probably Asia is different than the So I'm still really optimistic, and for Frappin, I said before, we need to be present everywhere on the market to explain what we are. So probably, I hope during this autumn, we will come back on the market to make tasting, etc. around the world. So still optimistic for our business.
Thank you so much, Patrice. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And I really feel like the depth of coverage given in this episode sets a new standard for the category. You can, of course, see below for the links to the tech sheets for both cognacs on the Louis Latour Agency's website, and below that the website for Cognac Frappin themselves, as well as that of Louis Latour. And do not forget to enter the special prize draw running for this series with Louis Latour Agencies. Just head to interpretingwine.com/LLA prize draw for the chance to win 6 products from the series. And given by now you will have heard all 5 episodes and the 10 products covered across the series, you'll know just how much I've enjoyed tasting these products. This being the 5th and final episode of the series, it just left for me to say a huge thanks to all of the guests. During this lockdown period, when it's not been possible to travel, it's been wonderful to virtually travel to your estates. And as ever, I'm so happy that I was able to bring you along for the ride. Also, a huge thank you to Louis Latour Agencies for sponsoring this series. These are, without doubt, some of the most in-depth episodes I've ever recorded for the podcast. And I think that these episodes can potentially inspire future content for many months to come. And if you would like information on how to subscribe and potentially to sponsor a series of your own, do head to interpretingwine.com. And I would love to have your feedback on this series. You can find me on social media where I'm at Interpreting Wine on Instagram and Facebook, at Wine Podcast on Twitter, and email hello@interpretingwine.com. See you next time.